I spent months building a sweater unraveler. It took weeks for me to make a functioning ribber attachment for my knitting machine, and now I'm going to finally tell you why I spent all of that time and effort building those machines. If you couldn't already tell from the title of this video, I am going to knit a 1940s capsule wardrobe out of the yarn that I got from unraveled sweaters using my knitting machine. I first mentioned this idea of knitting a 1940s capsule wardrobe in a video about like my moonshot knitting ideas, so I guess I'm actually finally going to make one of those moonshot knitting ideas. I never thought I would. But I have this book here. It's called The New Styles by Beehive. It's a pattern booklet that I guesstimate to be written and published around the early to mid 1940s. And it's full of really cute knitting patterns that all of which I want to make. But what really caught my eye when I was looking through this pattern booklet is a capsule wardrobe, or at least I would call it a capsule wardrobe. In the 1940s, they called it a mixed set or a mix and match set. And it consists of 4 hand knit items to which you add a blouse and slacks, and you get a new outfit, or at least a different outfit, for 7 days, a whole week. The idea of this capsule wardrobe, like I said, it was called a mixed set or a mix and match set, is nothing new. In the 1940s, I have a Montgomery Ward's catalog from 1943-1944 that has a mixed set or a mix and match set that you can buy, which I also think is really cute. I won't be hand knitting this because honestly my arms need a bit of a break, and I love using machines and knitting machines. It's one of the reasons why I set up the ribber, so I can do this within a reasonable time frame and not take forever without injuring myself from repetitive use injury, which I have gotten from knitting too much. But first, why don't we take a look at the 4 items that they suggest that you knit for this capsule wardrobe. The first is the Mazurka, which is a ladies pullover, either with a low turtleneck or a round neck with long and short sleeves. Now, I am going to choose the low turtleneck to knit for this one, and I'm not going to make long or short sleeves. I personally prefer 3/4 sleeves, like this sweater that I'm wearing right now. This is a vintage knit. I get a lot of people asking me if I knit this from a pattern. No, I did not. This is a vintage sweater, but I am writing a pattern for this one, so stay tuned if you want to knit this yourself. This is suggested to be knit in a red color, red number 55, out of 3-ply beehive fingering. Once again, I'm going to be using unraveled sweaters. I unraveled a merino wool sweater that was this lovely deep red color, and that's what I will be using to knit up the Mazurka sweater. The next set of pieces I'm going to look at is the vest, or what they call a knitted pullover, and the skirt. And they're supposed to be a matching set. And it has this really interesting, almost moss stitch light zigzag pattern in it. You can definitely see it in the sketch and the close-up of the pattern design. I know that I could do that pattern by hand, but it is a lot of knitting to do a vest and a skirt. Like, it requires a lot of yarn, it requires a lot of knitting. I don't think I have the stamina for that, so I'm going to be doing it on the knitting machine. Moss stitch with my machine is a little bit difficult to do, so I'm going to be probably redesigning this sweater or vest and skirt set a little bit to work better on my machine. I also don't have enough yarn of one color or one type to make the entire set. I technically have enough yardage of one particular yarn, but the yarns are very, very thin, so I need to at least double them up. So I can't ply it back on itself or use it with itself because I'll only have about half the yardage required. So I'm using the yardage or yarn from 2 separate sweaters that I unraveled in the suggested color, which is going to be this like lovely deep green. They're both cashmere sweaters, so this is going to be a very luxurious set of cashmere deep green skirt and sweater. And then the last one is the cardigan, and they call it a lady's jacket. I would call it more of a cardigan, but it's meant for thicker wool and a slightly boxier shape and less of a figure hugging shape. So I see why they would call it more of like a jacket, like something a little bit more outerwear intended. This is the yarn that I showed in my first sweater unraveling video, the one that I plied up at the end. That is the yarn that I will be using for this. So it's a combination of different wools and cashmeres to get that kind of like light gray beige look. What they had suggested in the pattern itself was the color Natural Mixture. To me, that's almost heathered yarn. I don't think it looks particularly heathered from the pattern picture, but It's in black and white, and sometimes the details like that don't stand out the best, but natural to me is kind of like that taupey beige color. And I liked the gray heathered, so I'm really excited to see what that particular cardigan or jacket is going to end up looking like. The buttons, I have a few vintage buttons from an estate sale that I'm probably going to go through and choose from to use as the buttons for mine. And personally, I'm very excited because this cardigan slash jacket, I'm going to have to choose one and stick with it when I talk about this one, has pockets. I love pockets, especially functioning pockets. These are real pockets. They're not just like little pocket flaps for decoration. They're true pockets, so I'm very excited about that. Now with these 4 knits, slacks and a shirtwaist or blouse, they suggest these 7 outfits. So on Monday, I guess maybe we're coming back from the flower market and we are wearing the matching knitted vest with the skirt under which we have the shirtwaist on. On Tuesday, we are going to be wearing the knitted pullover with the slacks, so that's the red pullover with the slacks that we have on. On Wednesday, we're going to be going back to the vest and skirt, but we're going to be adding the jacket on top of it, and we're still wearing the shirtwaist, so that's maybe for a cooler day. Thursday, we're going to wear this same vest and jacket combo, but we're switching out the skirt for the slacks. Friday, we're switching back to the skirt, and we're adding the red turtleneck on top of it. I typically don't wear red and green together like this unless I'm like really dressing up for Christmas or something like that, so it'll be really different for me. Saturday, we are going back to the slacks with the vest and shirtwaist, but no jacket this time. And then Sunday, we are mixing almost all of the knits except for one together. We are wearing the Mazurka pullover with the skirt and the jacket on top. I feel like I have to be careful what outfit to wear back to back, so it doesn't seem like I just threw a jacket on today and then that's a different outfit. They're pretty close together, but I am really interested to see what wearing this entire capsule wardrobe would be like for a week. I do want to try that out after I knit all of these pieces. Another thing that I can kind of hear you saying at this point is, hey, could I get a copy of that capsule wardrobe and the patterns? And trust me, I looked into it. I would love for you to be able to access this in its original vintage form, but I am aware of pattern copyright, and copyright for knitting patterns is something that's important to me. I think the designers should be credited and compensated. The 1940s is kind of in that gray area of whether or not something is public domain yet, depending on your country's laws, who authored it, are they alive or dead, all of those different regulations. There is kind of an interesting quote-unquote issue with this particular pattern book. There is no official published date. I can only guess based on the design and what I know about knitting fashion history, I guess, and silhouette history. It was published in Canada, which I don't have as much information on, not that I know much of intellectual property law at all. I will say I took the time to read through Canada's copyright laws, and it left me with more questions than answers about this. So I went through the process of hiring a Canadian intellectual property lawyer. We met and discussed the copyright on this book, and as it stands right now, the copyright still does exist on this book. However, it is not super clear who owns the copyright because of changes that happened with the company. It's difficult to find the original authors, and so it's hard to ask an entity or someone for permission to reprint these patterns, basically, and republish these patterns myself. Working together with that Canadian lawyer, I have opened up a case with the Canadian Copyright Commission, I think that's what they're called, to get a little bit more clarity on the copyright status of this particular work, who I would need to ask, how I would get permission. So that's something that I am working on. I would like to be able to share it in its original form, but if that's not possible, or if I don't really get anywhere with that, one thing that the lawyer and I discussed is I can use this as inspiration for my own version of a vintage capsule wardrobe if I wanted to create my own patterns. The plus side to that is the fact that I would be able to make the patterns in a wide range of sizes, and I could grade them to be larger than just the typical like maximum 36-inch bust knitting patterns that vintage patterns tend to be in this book, and I could base them off of a wider variety and ranges of styles so that it could be something that I create and is unique to myself, and I would own the copyright to that. So that is something that's possible. If you're interested in something like that, let me know. All right, that whole long tangent on intellectual property aside, I hope you're all as excited as I am to make and wear this capsule wardrobe. Like I said, I do plan on wearing it for an entire week. If you enjoyed learning a little bit more about this, feel free to give the video a like. If you want to make sure that you don't miss me making and wearing this capsule wardrobe, consider subscribing, and I will see you all again very, very soon. Bye!